Good morning, everybody. Today we are discussing the importance of standard operating procedures, also known as SOPs. Uh, so, what are a few good examples of good operating procedures? Good SOPs should provide uniform training to everybody involved. That's ground crews, ATC, pilots, you name it. Everyone should have good uniform training with the way the airport environment works or uh, flight environment during cruise works. Uh, this can be done through ATP slash type rating training, type ratings, flight safety courses, and recurrency training. Depending on the company, you'll go through different courses. They're also simple to remember and follow. You need to be able to have a clear rule book that the pilots can refer to and get a good, clear thought process on the situation and the way they should handle it, in addition to what the FARs might have already stated. Um, they should increase safety. So when you're able to look back at a company over the past few years of its performance, its SOPs should reduce the number of accidents and ensure consistent results. So obviously, if the company's having issues with accidents or maintenance or whatnot, you might want to look into that company's SOPs and see what they're doing wrong there. Some bad procedures. Bad procedures, they increase the number of errors and frustration pilots come across. They result in increased spending and loss of time, to name a few. That's through delays, having to declare an emergency, or just having to go back for maintenance when something's not right, and anyone involved might not know exactly the right way to handle that situation unless there was a firm SOP involved. Um, Bad SOPs don't get used or read. It's unfortunate, but pilots do skip over checklists sometimes. They do skimp on reading. So having something that's easy to follow and that the pilots can actually get behind is a huge benefit for them, and will help them utilize it rather than just forget it's there. Bad SOPs also cause accidents, such as not utilizing CRM or ADM in an emergency situation, or being able to divvy up tasks between the pilot and the first officer of who's doing what, the pilot flying or the pilot looking at the SOPs, seeing the proper way to respond. So a little personal narrative here. When I was going through training at Georgetown, my actual primary instructor that got me my license was going for his multi-engine instructor check ride in a Beechcraft Duchess. BE76 is the identifier, and then the tail number is 3733 Golf. It was September 20th, 2019. The aircraft took off for his MEI check ride with the DP on board, and the whole check ride went fine. They did all their landings, and the very last landing they were coming in to do, they noticed that the gear down indicators, two were illuminated green and one was illuminated red or in transition still. So what ended up happening was the gearbox and the gear stops on the right main landing gear of this aircraft was improperly maintained. They were set too long, and over the course of repeated gear cycles, the gear box basically burnt out from trying to force that gear up all the time. And it resulted in it actually getting stuck. I guess it was some kind of hydraulic lock or something like that, where they could no longer cycle the gear up or down. So what they did is they basically used CRM, talked together. They tried replacing the light bulb to make sure it wasn't an issue there. They went and pulled G's to try to pop the landing gear down. They did the emergency gear extension. They went through every practical solution to fix the issue, and nothing worked. So they basically came to the conclusion that they'd have all the fire trucks there waiting for them, and that they would attempt to land on two of the landing gear. And then in addition to that, they also decided, after attempting the approach a few times, that the last approach they would go ahead and shut off both the engines, in order to minimize damage to the props of the engines for some reason. I was looking for the video of it. It was actually a great landing, and the resulted in the aircraft pretty much having no damage whatsoever. He kept it on the main left landing gear and the nose gear pretty much the whole way down the runway. It basically tipped over and hit the right wing for maybe 10, 15 feet when it came to a stop, and basically just scuffed up the wing a little. So it took him a couple months to get it back airworthy, but he ended up saving the aircraft and pulled off a crazy landing. This was possible by good CRM, good communication with the DPE on board, and worked through that emergency situation using basically the rule books that they had and that they were trained for, and what ways they should handle that situation. Big learning point here is to remember that the aircraft belongs to the insurance company whenever an emergency happens. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend shutting off both engines to attempt a landing. That's just taking your option of going around completely out of the equation. They both came to the conclusion that that was fine and that they were capable of pulling off the landing the way they did. But for me personally, I would have kept the engines running, got the aircraft on the ground, and then at that point, the propellers and the engines and the damage to the aircraft, so that's the insurance company's problem, not yours. So going forward, arguments for SOPs: they promote safety in flight as well as on the ground. They provide pilots with clear rule book on how to handle situations, and they complement the FARs. Promoting positions in flight departments. Well, in order to convince others of the importance of SOPs, I would highlight NTSB accidents as well as personal narratives. So both NTSB accidents where it was a good outcome, as well as ones that it was not such a good outcome, resulting in the loss of life, can help show others the importance of these SOPs. In addition to that, I would show them great companies that have a proven track record and a solid SOP that they follow. Companies that come to mind: Wheels Up Aviation, NetJets, some of those kind of corporate charter companies. They've been running for a while and have a pretty good track record. And then below is a diagram that you could use to describe standard operating procedures. If we start at recurrent training, and then it goes to pilot, aircraft environment, and external factors, self-crew, passengers, checklist profiles, and then call-outs and cross-checks. So, calling V-speeds, gears up, flaps, that's a big thing. Especially in multi-engine aircraft, people reach for the flap lever, but accidentally grab the gear lever while they're still on the ground. That's a common issue and cause a gear collapse on the ground. So having somebody on board that can cross-check you is a great plus. Overall, thank you for listening to me. These are my citations for the aircraft accident for 33 Golf. Thank you.